The world's mightiest beasts wield awesome power. But ever wonder who would win when nature's heavyweights go head-to-head? These battles do happen in the wild, but we rarely witness them. So, to see who's the ultimate champion, to understand their true power, and appreciate their skills, we stage our own battles in a virtual arena. As our animals take shape, experts compare their strengths and weaknesses. With specially built biomechanical machines, we test their might. Finally, our virtual contenders come face to face for the ultimate showdown, Animal Face-Off. The Arctic harbors two great carnivores. With the spring thaw, these antagonists meet. One is a 4,000-pound torpedo tipped with prehistoric ice picks. The other is a fearless colossus with club-like paws and the strength to drag almost twice its own body weight. One of them will get iced when polar bear and walrus go head-to-head in Animal Face-Off. We've assembled an international team of wildlife, engineering, and design experts. They meet in a sophisticated testing facility to discover the secrets behind this Animal Face-Off.
Who's going to win this between polar bear versus walrus? Going to be a tight one.
That bear's not even going to be able to slow that walrus down as it goes towards the water, but it's much more agile in the water. It's at home in the water.
Walrus expert Dave Tesler has had some close encounters with these heavyweights, using a crossbow to tag them for the Pacific Walrus Research Project.
So Jeff, you got any idea what this bite force of your polar bear will be?
I would guesstimate somewhere between 1,000 to 1,500 pounds.
That's a huge force.
Jeff Watson is a bear trainer with an intimate knowledge of animal behavior.
I'm not the expert here. I don't know much, but I mean, I'm looking at a big blob versus a serious predator. Guys, I don't even see a fight here. I mean, I'm looking at a big pile of lard laying on the beach versus the largest land carnivore.
Our moderator, Dave Salmoni, is a zoologist and big cat expert. His latest project is teaching tigers born in zoos how to survive in the wild.
I mean, if you show me a fight, you're going to impress me. I mean, this is teeth, this is claws, this is huge power, and aggression. They're strong and powerful animals.
So, you know whose side he's on. Hey,
I'm polar bear.
I'm buying you dinner.
I don't think this walrus has got a chance.
I'm with the walrus.
Hey, I tell you what about this big blob. Most people look at it and think, well, it's just fat. But that animal, it's got this much skin, and then it's got that much blubber inside of that animal.
I just don't understand it if they have such a thick skin and it can't be penetrated by the polar bear. Then why do they run? Why do they flee?
It's a herd animal. That's their instinct, and they're much better off in the water. That's their home. They're a marine mammal. They are out of their element on the land. That's where they haul out and they sleep for long periods of time.
Dave and Jeff will help the Animal Face-Off team discover what could happen when walrus and polar bear go head-to-head in a battle for supremacy. It's too dangerous to test the fighting prowess of real animals in the wild. So the team will build biomechanical replicas of the two rivals and test their abilities in the safety of the lab.
To be up like that.
Biological information and test data from the lab will be downloaded on computer. Then 3D animators will build our two virtual contenders for a fight to the finish. A shellfish-eating marine mammal, the walrus seems an unlikely face-off contender. But at 14 feet long and weighing 4,000 pounds, it has the power of a runaway truck. The walrus has 2 lethal weapons, a pair of prehistoric tusks that can grow up to 4 feet long. Made of solid ivory, each tusk weighs up to 15 pounds. They help fight off predators or establish dominance over rivals. Meet our design and engineering team. Mike Latham, Chris Wheatley, and Justin Buckingham.
So this isn't an offensive animal. It's not running around attacking.
Before they build the biomechanical walrus, they consult our walrus expert.
I guess the thing that you recognize first are the tusks. You know, this is a big animal. It's got big tusks. They can be 3 feet, 4 feet long.
Look
Yeah,
at the size
look
of
at that thing.
You're not at all worried about those tusks, Jeff?
Well, yeah, I'm worried about them, but I'm not worried for my polar bear.
That's about good for a male walrus, but I've heard some Eskimo hunters talk about tusks up to 6 feet long in the past. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
This animal creates enough force to drive these directly through a bear.
I can't see how an unarmored animal could withstand those tusks if driven by the force. I mean, that skull is massive.
Well, I think the point is, guys, let's go and start making these things and start measuring them. Because I'd really like to see
That's the only way to do it.
The proof is in the work here. Let's get these done.
All right, crank on.
Go, guys.
The team faces a huge challenge. Design and build a walrus head.
If we mounted the head on the end of the spring in the right angle,
With just a week to get it done, they're racing the clock.
If we take the head and we get a leaf spring manufactured, like a truck spring.
Working from an anatomically correct walrus skull, the modelers sculpt a polystyrene replica. Next stop, the foundry. They bury the polystyrene model in a box of sand. Then add molten aluminum. The aluminum vaporizes the polystyrene and takes its place. Result, a solid metal walrus skull. The finishing touch is clean and polish. Getting the skull right is just the first step. In the wild, the walrus strikes by pulling back its head, then using its body weight to power it forward. Replicating that deadly movement is another major challenge.
How much power is in those tusks?
I would not be anywhere near them when they come down. They would puncture me like that.
I wonder if we can make a special spring which will allow us to get just an instant movement.
the trouble is then,
huge
that
force
would be the ultimate. We've got the trouble then of where to release it and how to release it, eh?
How's it? Yeah, just looking at this walrus.
Solution: build a special spring to reproduce the walrus strike.
The challenge with the walrus is really that it's going to be a very instant movement with a very large beast that's going to rear itself up and strike down in one hit. So we need to be able to create, A, that fast movement that we know we won't get out of the hydraulics, and B, we need to be able to release it very, very swiftly.
Can I get a couple of these for me, bed?
Within their 1-week deadline, they have to test their invention. The spring should allow the biomechanical head to strike with overwhelming force, just like a real walrus. The team now attaches the head to RV2, a stripped-down excavator rebuilt as a remotely operated vehicle. Mike controls the metal monster from his perch high above the lab. Power comes from a diesel engine that cranks out 5,000 pounds per square inch of hydraulic pressure. Oil travels through 20 100-foot cables to hydraulic pistons that will drive the walrus spring and head. The experts meet their deadline. Now we meet the critter with the overbite from hell.
Look at that thing. I am so impressed, you guys. I can't believe it. That is beautiful. Looking at this walrus, I can tell you size is everything in the Arctic.
So how does this thing work, guys?
First test for the walrus, a tusk strike. Will it produce enough force to wound a polar bear?
So, Jonathan, we're going to capture this motion here?
Yeah, we've got the cameras set up like we do for 3D motion analysis.
The final member of the team is data acquisition expert Jonathan Wiersma. By placing white dots on the tusks, Jonathan can track their movement on camera. Then, using frame-by-frame analysis, he can calculate force and acceleration. Data vital to our 3D designers as they construct our two virtual contenders.
So when a walrus strikes, I mean, it happens instantaneously. How are you guys going to release this? Are you doing it with the ram, or how does it work?
We've got a release system here, basically, so when the angle changes, when this comes up, nothing else can happen other than the cable slides off.
All right, well, we're going to do this?
Chris removes the safety pin from Mike's release mechanism, which will trigger once the spring is fully extended.
This is my part that I don't like so much. the creaky part.
Getting a lot of pressure on that spring.
I tell you what, I'm going to step... Oh, I can't step back any further.
I'm behind Jonathan.
Just give it a tweak and see if it goes.
Dave Tesler estimates that a walrus puts a third of its body weight into a strike. So the spring is calibrated to 1,300 pounds.
Now, do they actually move faster than that in the wild?
They move lightning fast.
Let me have a look here.
Yeah, what does it read?
1,025 pounds.
Oh, man. What do you think of that, Jeff?
I'm probably the least technical expert here, but I probably possess more common sense than all of you put together. And anything that takes the brunt of these tusks is going to get hurt.
What angle do you think they normally get the tusks?
They'll go beyond vertical.
Oh, yeah? So they actually point up.
Yeah, they'll point up into the air before they strike.
The spring is fully extended, and the machine is calibrated to 1,300 pounds. Now to test it.
All right.
Yeah, I can't say I wasn't scared, but I was more scared. I was more scared of the spring than the walrus. Oh yeah, well it's very close to what I thought. I mean, I thought it was going about this much, 6 to 8 inches in there, it seems.
I think it's safe to say that that polar bear wouldn't be going anywhere after a blow like that.
From a broken rib?
Broken rib, punctured organs.
Data man Jonathan analyzes the walrus test.
Here's the digitized footage.
Yeah.
What that results in is the XY coordinates of the different points.
Okay.
So if we look here, the maximum velocity of the tusks was well over 400 centimeters per second, which translates into a high acceleration, well over 1,000 centimeters per second squared.
Dave says we're working with a walrus that's about 2 tons, so a third of that would be the head, and you're talking maybe 600 kilograms. So what does that translate to force?
600 kilograms times this acceleration?
Yeah.
About 1,800 pounds force.
That's a serious weapon, eh? All right, fabulous. Thanks very much.
No problem, Dave.
The first test showed the walrus can generate great speed and force with those tusks, enough to skewer an unarmored animal like a polar bear. The test data is uploaded to our designers, who will use that information to design and build the virtual walrus for our final face-off.
Polar bear, it's a stalk hunt. It's running. See how it uses its leverage, uses those forelimbs, breaks that ice open. Got it right there, right on top of it.
take note of that for your walrus.
Now that's a seal. That's not a 2-ton walrus.
Oh, I know that. That's an hors d'oeuvre. That's an hors d'oeuvre. Main course is walrus. And we get toothpicks with that also.
We've seen the walrus's weapons in action, but can those tusks nail the polar bear? The walrus is a 4,000-pound behemoth with lethal tusks. But the other contender in this face-off is no pushover. The largest carnivore on land, the polar bear weighs up to 1,500 pounds and stands 12 feet tall upright. That's as tall as an elephant. It has a fearsome armory, including dagger-like 3-inch canines and razor-sharp carnassial teeth. These can rip with ease through the skin, flesh, and blubber of its most common prey, the ringed seal. The most carnivorous of all bears, it will attack anything within reach. A 1,500-pound beluga whale, a 2,700-pound narwhal, even a well-armed 4,000-pound walrus. The bear will be a formidable opponent for the walrus when these Arctic giants meet in our virtual face-off. But only one will come in from the cold. The biomechanics team consult polar bear expert Jeff about the predator's weapons.
Teeth and claws and power. Teeth, claws, and power. The power that operates the jaw, that has the teeth. You know, we have a size comparison right here, and everybody's somewhat overwhelmed by these tusks, but that's all they have.
You're not intimidated by them whatsoever?
Well, hell yeah, I'm intimidated by them.
You should be.
I don't weigh 1,500 pounds and stand 10 foot tall. A bear is going to be quicker on land and hopefully come in with, of course, smaller canines, but it's the cumulative effect. It's going to take a beating.
So what kind of bite force can we expect from this bear?
But look at this. Look at the canines with the jaw power there. I'm curious what it is myself. I would guesstimate somewhere between 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. We've got a skull right here, and we want you to replicate this, if you can.
This is interesting. So we're going to actually pick up a jaw mechanism through here, and this becomes our lever, so that's the closing element there.
With the clock still ticking, it's back to the drawing board for the design team.
Through here.
Building the polar bear skull requires a more intricate process than the walrus, whose head and tusks were designed and built as a single cast. First, the designers modeled the polystyrene head from an anatomically correct skull before sculpting and fitting each of its 42 teeth into the jaw. Then onto the foundry, where the polar bear head is cast in aluminum. The skull emerges with teeth attached. Justin gives the canines a final polish. Mike and Justin then fit the polar bear head to a remotely operated vehicle.
Yeah, that's it. We're going to need a washer for this one, though, because otherwise it's going to be a little bit on the long side.
And attach the hydraulic hoses to the rams that will power those mighty jaws. Delivered on schedule, the polar bear is good to go. Now, let's find out what it can do.
Welcome to the polar bear.
Yeah.
Looking good. So the first thing we should do is try and gauge the power of this guy's bite.
Yeah.
So it's your call, Jonathan.
For sure. Well, you know what we do? If we could measure the maximum width of the skull, then I could enter that in the computer and I could tell you what the force should be.
A scientific formula that relates skull size to muscle power indicates the polar bear has a bite force of 1,800 pounds.
I think we should use the large load cell. Can we do that, you think?
Yep, definitely.
Before any testing, the team must calibrate the jaws to the estimated bite force of 1,800 pounds.
He's starting to sweat a bit here.
You got that worried look about you, Tiger. You all right or what?
Yeah.
Whoa, 1,160. Almost 1,400. 1,400.
Keep going.
That's 1,600.
Excellent.
You got a little bit more?
Yeah, keep going.
17. There you go, 1,800.
But what will 1,800 pounds of bite force do?
I want to see something destroyed. Yeah. Hey, Joe, throw me that ball.
Uh-oh. Safety glasses on.
A football will demonstrate the puncturing power of those canines.
Head up. You read it? 3, 2, 1, blow it up. Woo! Wow. Wow.
The walrus is going to sound like that when all the air goes out.
The walrus is going to have some serious problems.
Next, a bottle of soda will test the crushing power of the polar bear's jaws.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Hey, Tiger.
I should have stuck down behind you.
What flavor? Red. Walrus.
In the final showdown, the polar bear will encounter the walrus's key defense, its hide, a secret weapon that could save the walrus's skin. The walrus's defense system is built around its thick 2 to 3 inch hide and 4 inches of blubber. The scars and scratches show the heavy-duty tusking it takes from other males as they compete for space and mating rights. By contrast, the polar bear relies on 2 inches of fur and 4.5 inches of blubber to protect its body. But its skin is unarmored. In a face-off, it might be vulnerable to the walrus's deadly ice picks. The walrus seems better protected, but the polar bear is a feared predator with a huge bite force.
The skin is so thick. I know that when we've tried to cut walrus skin, we use, box cutters, razor knives.
Yeah.
And
Who's we?
Well, us walrus biologists. It's a trick I learned. It's a trick I learned from Eskimo hunters. That's how they make their initial cuts now into walrus tissue. That stuff is really, really, really thick, and it's full of collagen fibers. It's tough stuff.
But how do you recreate walrus hide?
Laminate leather or something like that?
Lots of leather coats.
That's a good idea.
We can laminate sheets of leather together, but up to...
I don't know. You could do 2, 3 inches. I'm just guessing because
That's almost bulletproof.
that's about the thickness of a walrus's skin.
To create 3-inch thick walrus hide, the design team laminates 20 sheets of leather. A roll of simulated walrus hide prepared by the design team is ready for testing.
All right, guys. Justin's made us up this piece of mock walrus hide. We try to get the thickness and the same texture.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Well, it's probably a reasonable approximation. It would give us a good test.
The experts agree. The polar bear will first try to bite and then tear its way through the simulated walrus hide.
3, 2, 1.
Did it pierce it?
It bit right through it.
Right through it.
That was the bite. Now it will try to tear its way through the hide.
Hang on to it, mate. Lean into it. All right. Right, strong, isn't it? It's strong. Ooh, it does go in, doesn't it?
Yeah, look at the other side. Yeah.
No, we're starting to cut it right here with the carnassial, though. See that? So, just a matter of time. Just a matter of time.
If that walrus
That's
is
right,
going to
matter
lay
of
there unconscious for that bear to chew on it for an
usually
indefinite period of time, it will chew through.
When they're dead, they're unconscious.
You're right, but it has to kill it first.
Did you get any stuff from the bite force of that bear?
Actually, we did, Dave. Remember how we estimated in the based on that formula that we derived? We estimated the bite force based on the width of the skull to be around 1,800 pounds. And if you look at this graph, it shows the result of 1,800 pounds.
Right.
So that means everything that we crushed could easily be done by a real bear.
After one test, both contenders have produced 1,800 pounds of force. Looks like the final face-off will be a close call.
If they're squared off on land, my walrus is going to try to pull your bear into the water. If he's in the water, he doesn't have a chance.
There's nothing to fear. Why would the walrus flee?
He's going to take the fight to where he's strongest and most agile, which is in the water.
No, the walrus is going to hit the water and hit the road. It's going to swim away. It's not going to the water to fight.
He's going to swim into the water, and he's going to take that bear with him.
The polar bear and walrus have shown their explosive power on land. But what will they do in the water? The walrus is a 4,000-pound marine mammal with deadly tusks and leathery skin. The polar bear is a 1,500-pound land-based predator with 1,800 pounds of bite force. But only one will survive when walrus and polar bear go head-to-head in our virtual face-off. Although the polar bear can reach a speed of 6 miles per hour in water, it can stay underwater for only a few minutes. The battle arena, land or sea, could decide the final face-off between these two polar giants. The walrus spends 2/3 of its life in the water, where it can reach 22 miles per hour. It can stay underwater for 20 minutes at a time as it searches out its favorite food, clams. In or out of water, the walrus wields those fearsome tusks with deadly intent. When attacked, the ungainly 4,000-pound walrus heads for the water, while the 1,500-pound polar bear tries to keep the fight on land. On land, the polar bear has a clear advantage, but water transforms the walrus into a fighting machine. Can the polar bear keep the walrus out of its element? To put our beast to the test, RV2 heads out to a custom-built pool. The team will find out how much power the polar bear must generate to keep the walrus on land.
Hey, Mike, hold up! Hold up a second. You guys, okay, I know this is hokey, but this thing weighs about 2 tons. That's about what a walrus weighs. For kicks and grins, let's see if we can hold the ROV back from going into the water.
No, I think we can do it. I think we can do it.
You think you can do it?
I don't even need you guys, actually.
Mike, is that
all
cool?
right, now I'll bring you guys.
Well, you can have a try. I don't like your chances much, though. Tell me when you're ready.
Mike, we're set! We're ready! You guys, we're ready! Pull your weight! Okay, hang on. You guys aren't pulling your weight! Yeah, we're winning! Yeah, we got it! Oh, I think he's winning! Either a polar bear's not going to stop a walrus, or we make a pretty damn poor polar bear.
Score 1 for the walrus. Clearly, its sheer size is one of its best defenses against the polar bear. Having won the tug-of-war, RV2 backs into the pool, where the walrus will be tested in its natural habitat, water.
Now, you were telling me a story about sometimes they take boats or something like that?
Native hunters are always really concerned about being in the water with walruses because they'll come up and they'll crush the sides of them. They'll go in through the sides either with their head or their tusks. So if you're in a small boat around a bunch of walruses, you want to watch yourself.
So, what kind of damage could a 2-ton walrus do to a kayak?
Let's bring that in, put it over there at the other end of the pool there. And we'll get the walrus, see if we can grab it right around where the person would sit.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, okay.
That's perfect.
Mike, are you ready?
Good to go. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
That was amazing.
Yes, those are serious weapons.
Oh, nice. Check that out.
Yeah, went right to the bottom. Now, you listen, Jeff, I gotta apologize. I was a firm believer in the polar bear up until now, but I'll tell you what, after watching these tusks, I think there's a real fight here.
Well, if my polar bear can get his big butt inside the kayak, I got some problems. But see, he can swim. He's a marine mammal. He can swim.
Can he swim with 2 puncture holes in the side of him?
Thank you. Thank you.
As the middleman here, I think there's a pretty good fight here.
I just wish you were sitting in it.
All right, fair enough.
Well, I don't want you to get hurt. I just want to see you go for a swim in the drink.
I can't believe what it did to that canoe. I mean, it hit that canoe hard.
Calibrated to 1,300 pounds, as it was in the studio, the biomechanical beast again struck the target at almost the same speed as a real walrus. The damage is consistent with reported walrus attacks on kayaks. The test data is uploaded to the lab's computers, where our 2 face-off contenders are shaping up.
My polar bear is going to destroy your walrus. If your walrus stays on land, it's going to be a nice fight. It won't last long, but it'll be a decent fight.
Land or water, that polar bear doesn't stand a chance. If we're going to do it on the land, he'll staple his head to the ground. If we're going to do it in the water, story's over.
Big, bad polar bear. That's what it's afraid of.
Like all great predators, the polar bear has more than one weapon at its disposal. It has huge 12 by 10 inch paws, studded with razor-sharp 2-inch claws. An ambush predator, the polar bear uses those powerhouse paws to hook 500-pound seals out of their breathing holes. It also uses its body weight and those huge paws to pound a hole through solid ice to raid seal dens. But will those claws and paws give the polar bear enough punch for that final face-off?
What are the main things we're going to have to build into our polar bear rig, mate, to make it a fair contest?
Well, you know, they are the most carnivorous of all bears, so they use their claws in helping to secure prey. And their claws are very sharp, short, hooked, sharp, and they have a lot of power.
I know of, like I say, more anecdotal stories of bears in Canada where you get groups of polar bears waiting around for whales to come up and breed. And then they just all kind of work together trying to kill this thing. They're strong and powerful little animals.
So you know whose side he's on, eh?
With time running out fast, the design team faces yet another challenge. Build a biomechanical polar bear arm and paw. As with the skulls, the designers ensure the paw and claw are anatomically correct. First, they model the arm in polystyrene before casting it in stainless steel.
Well, actually, one of the first things I've noticed...
Bear expert Jeff Watson is called in to answer a question about the claws.
We need to cut them down 2.5 inches.
Cut them out at ledges, eh?
Yeah, let me see if I can make it more hooked here. Sharper on the bottom.
Justin puts the finishing touches on the polar bear paw. Can its claws do what its jaws couldn't and stop that walrus? 2 heavyweight contenders, but only one can survive when polar titans clash.
What we got going on here?
The first paw test brings nature's weapons and defense systems together in the lab. Polar bear paw and simulated walrus hide. It's made from 20 sheets of leather laminated into a 3-inch block. Something's gotta give.
I'll tell you what, 165-pound crossbow at about 15-20 feet can barely penetrate walrus hide. And this, it's close.
Just up and that, please, for the arm. Keep going.
Ready to see this?
Let's see it.
I'm ready, Mike, if you're ready.
Yeah, good to go.
Okay, I'm going to count this down. Jonathan, you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
We'll get with it. 3, 2, 1, tear it.
Whoa.
Oh,
Wow.
Your walrus is in trouble.
I'm not sure if it ripped the walrus, but it certainly knocked him down.
Mike the mechanic makes a few running repairs, and it's on with the test.
That won't come down.
You guys ready to see some action?
Yeah, let's see this thing swipe.
Jonathan, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Turn around here then.
No, I'm going to watch it here.
Okay. Mike, you ready?
Good to go.
Okay, I'm going to give you a countdown. 3, 2, 1, tear it.
Stop, Mike. They make it safe.
Whoa, it's getting in there now. But I mean, it looks like basically it tore
These are a little over 2-inch claws.
Yeah.
We just got about a 1/4 inch in there at the sink.
Just the outermost layer. That might be enough to kind of get in and hold for a second, but it didn't rip through the skin.
Over a period of time, enough swats, enough claw marks on there, the toll's going to be taken on the walrus.
Basically the same thing we found with the teeth.
It's not going to have that time.
This skin is turning out to be its best protection.
What are the key things we've got to do?
Claws and power. Power operates the 4 limbs, that has the paws, that has the claws.
The claws.
No, they're sharp. The claws are actually sharp, but I have no clue on the strike force. And of course, we're hoping you guys can help us figure that out. A lot of it's anecdotal. We hear stories about polar bears knocking 500-pound seals out of the water.
500-pound seals, wow.
Oh, you haven't heard
That
that.
strength.
Since the face-off may take place on land or in water, the experts consider how water could affect a paw swipe.
I'd say they'd use the water as their advantage, eh? Like things are a bit lighter, so he's probably going to get a bit of momentum up while he's in the water and
Bob it down and flick it down.
The seal's obviously got to be coming up debris. Yeah. For him, so there might be momentum there. Whereas if the seal's on the ground and the bear's chasing it, and a swat, there's different reasons why the bear's going to be swatting it. So I guess you're going to have to look at both.
hopefully we do that, though, eh?
Oh, we can
recreate that. Definitely.
Hopefully Jonathan can get it down.
First, the team tests the polar bear paw swipe on land.
Well, this punch bag, which represents our 500-pound seal, the idea is that they'll pull this thing up and try and chuck it and see how
fling it.
far
Now understand, Jeff, like polar bears can actually hit a 500-pound seal and get it.
Yeah, I mean, polar bear, let's say you take a big male, it can get as big as 1,500 pounds. They've had them bigger, but if it does hit a seal that is 500 pounds, you know, it's a third of the body weight, so we know they can do that.
So, Jonathan, we're going to capture this motion here.
Yeah, we've got the cameras set up like we do for 3D motion analysis, and what we do is we put white dots on all the joints, so operators are going to be able to model it, and we can track things like the velocity, acceleration, and calculate forces. Okay, let's do it.
It's too dangerous to measure the paw swipe of a real polar bear, but we know it can flip a 500-pound bearded seal out of the water.
That's it. And down on the little forearm.
But for once, recreating the forces of nature proves too much for the team. Flipping 500 pounds would exceed the safety margins for this machine. But to get an idea of the power a real polar bear can deliver, Justin and Mike crank it up to the max.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
In the first test, the polar bear arm will try to flip a punching bag weighing 150 pounds, the same weight as its most common prey. the ring seal.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Throw that bad boy. Go.
The bear hit that one right out of the park.
So that was a nice one.
All right.
Ball marks right here.
Yeah.
What do you think, Walrus boy?
I think your polar bear finally showed something that it can do.
The thing we really need to do is actually test it in the water, because I'm sure there must be a different action, swatting it out of the water. That's what we're trying to show.
Only one way to find out, right?
Yeah,
Let's go swimming.
Let's go do it.
Okay. Let's go.
The second test takes place in the custom-built pool. How will water affect a paw swipe?
Hey, Justin. So we got the water test all sorted out here.
Yep. I reckon we're close.
All right, so it's the same seal we hit inside.
Yep.
I'm guessing it's going to be a little more difficult for it to drag this thing out, because the water's probably going to...
Yeah, it's going to have an effect.
Going to fight the water. For this rig.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's give it a go.
Okay. Stand back. You don't want to get wet.
I'll catch it. I'll stand here and catch it, Justin.
Yeah, you do that.
Can the polar bear still generate the same spectacular paw power in the pool?
Here's your big opportunity.
To splash.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
All right. Well, we've seen what the polar bear can do, and I mean, it's got some impressive power.
I mean, that's not light.
It's obviously harder for the polar bear to take a seal out of the water than it would be if it was on the shore or something and it's just running up.
I think that was a pretty fair test for...
We get the idea. It didn't hit the stars like it did inside the building,
I think your walrus has got some serious work to do.
I think that walrus is going to prove its worth.
But can I see that stuff he did on the polar bear swipe when it hit the bag?
Actually, I have it on the screen right now.
Oh.
Is that pretty cool?
Yeah. I like how the guys get soaked.
Yeah, you guys jump pretty far. And what we found out is it actually flew over 12 feet in total distance.
But in the pool, with the same amount of power behind the paw, it barely scooped the bag out of the water.
That's a perfect test of what they'll do in the wild when a seal comes up to the air hole. And as soon as the head comes up,
Compare the motion capture from both tests, and the polar bear delivers much more power on land than in the water. The polar bear has shown impressive paw power, but if the final face-off ends up in the sea, water resistance could decide the match.
Polar bears, they take the easy ones. They take the calves when they can get them. He's a coward. He's a predator on the weak.
But my animals are smart. These polar bears are extremely smart. They go for an easy kill, and then every now and then they want a good workout, and they'll go for the big one. And just to put the fear back into the colony, to let them know who really rules the North. Nanook.
Nanook.
Walruses bask in the spring sunshine, but there's no relaxing when a hungry polar bear is on the prowl.
All right, guys, the tests are done. Numbers are in. Any last words before we see who wins this one?
My walrus is going to take your bear. Those tusks, you don't have a chance. And if your bear even gets his paws on, he can't penetrate the flesh.
Get his paws on. Let me tell you something. I've listened to this stuff for an hour. I'm ready to see some action.
Well, if you're sure about that,
I'm sure about it. I want Dave to push the button because his buttons are going to get pushed when he looks at the footage. So go ahead. Work that finger on there. Work it as well as you work that tongue, and we'll see something. Let's go.
I tell you what, I can't resist. My walrus, even the stink in my walrus, will take your bear. So, here you go.
Here we go.
So what decided our contest? The polar bear attacked first, and the walrus headed for the water. Wielding immense strength, the polar bear held the walrus long enough with those huge paws to latch on with its teeth, but it couldn't inflict serious damage. The walrus then took the fight to the water, the turning point. In its element, the walrus proved quicker and more maneuverable than the polar bear, and it showed what those tusks can do. Wounded and running out of air, the polar bear struggled back to the surface. But the walrus wasn't finished. With the bear unable to escape, it delivered the fatal blow.
All right, Jeff. I have great respect for you and your polar bear, but he just couldn't stop the walrus. Sorry.
Okay, you won.
You just don't go inside with Royal.